Hello. Yes. Hello, Internet. Welcome to this week's episode of Tech, Bugs, and Rock and Roll, which is going to be an interesting one because it's just me. Dylan is at a thing, and Eli is also at a thing and making friends, apparently. So that's nice. So it's just me. No stunt Dylan. I have invited a couple of people and just left them the link. So if they turn up, they turn up. And if they don't, they don't. And you just got me for an hour. Dylan is somewhere in the Chester area. That is correct. So yes, I'm just going to talk to chat today and we can have a conversation and, ask me anything. So hello, Stephen and Surly and Daniel and Kieran and Marie and Christian. Yeah. And if I ever put this up as a podcast, Steve, I said Stephen, didn't I? If I didn't say Stephen, I'm sorry, Stephen. I love you just as much as I don't have favourites. Except you, Origami Marie, you're my favourite. I think you've been here for every episode of this. I don't remember doing an episode of this without Marie being here. And Surly Dev, actually, for the vast majority of them, usually on 3 separate channels. So, yes, I did notice some stuff this week. I saw a brilliant thing. In China, they built a dam and it's got like 400 billion tons of water in it or something. It's an absolutely massive, massive, massive dam. Hello, Dylan, almost in Chester. And it's so big that NASA have measured it and it's shifted the angle of the world on its axis by 80 centimeters. And it has made a day 0.06 of a microsecond longer or something, or 6 microseconds. No, 6 microseconds longer. Yes. And it just reminded me of that thing of like, if everybody in China jumped at the same time, would it do anything? And yeah, people kind of go, "Oh no, that's just silly." But I'm starting to think, yes. Why do people question from Dylan? Why do people keep pretending that trains have Wi-Fi when they clearly actually don't have Wi-Fi? This bothers me all the time because if I am going through a patch of bad reception and I'm on O2 and that happens a lot, then I am always tempted to try Southwestern Railway's Wi-Fi. And the thing that I routinely forget is that all Southwestern train Wi-Fi is an O2 access point stuck somewhere in the carriage. And so it's exactly the same data connection, but with a little bit more latency and whatever Southwest Railways are doing with your data. Surly now has all the stream chats open, so he's commenting on LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitch. And I get to see all of these, and I think most people watch in YouTube. Most of the comments seem to be from people watching on YouTube, which is the thing I put links to on Blue Sky and everything. So yes, yes, don't do LinkedIn, Surly, because it's very weird and they just show up as kind of comments on your post, and the video is just like a post on LinkedIn, and it's very strange. And I haven't done Kick this week because I thought there's no facility. I don't know if you can like assign mods and stuff, but Kick is really terrible for the spam bots turning up and going, "Hey, do you want a bunch of followers?" And you're like, "Not really," if they're just fake. Why do they do that? And it only occurred to me, so I only sort of realised that Kick was a thing because StreamYard popped up a dialogue one day going, "Oh, we support Kick now, so you can add your Kick thing." And I went, "Oh, I should probably get a Kick thing then." And so I did. And then it occurred to me as I was watching the British Grand Prix on Sunday that that's the team that's sponsoring Sauber this year. And it's actually, the team name is Kick Sauber. And so that's some fairly extreme marketing budget going right there. So yeah, I want to get like sponsor a team one year. Kick is also not really a good company. A lot of gambling that is targeted at children. Yes, I mean, gambling generally is unpleasant, and I was in a place recently and there were like fruit machines. I don't go to places very often, but I was in a place and it had fruit machines. And when I was in places more often, this sounds like I'm talking about brothels or something. I'm not. I'm just being whimsical or something. I don't know. But yes, and yeah, when I was a youth and fruit machines were kind of like 20p or 10p a go, and they had 3 reels, and they were physical reels, and you could kind of crane your neck and look sort of up and down when the nudge came along to see if you wanted to do one, and all this sort of thing. And then these it looked vaguely like a fruit machine, and it had a thing about win big prizes on there, and the sort of accumulator was £6,000 or something. But it was like a 6x5 screen full of buttons and or rollers or whatever the hell they are, and it was just disturbing, and I didn't understand it at all. So yes, Dylan is claiming that every company in the world boils babies for glue if you research them hard enough, which is probably grounds for legal action. I once got threatened with legal action by Penguin Publishing. So years and years and years ago, 1999, I think, and 98, 99, 2000, I used to do a website called Untitled Document, and it was untitleddocument.co.uk because I really liked The Onion, and I was working as a comedian at the time, and so I had time on my hands. And yeah, I thought I would do a sort of my version of The Onion, and so I did. Richard Campbell will not be joining us because he is in the middle of recording a .NET Rocks, which is fair. So, yes, what was I talking about? Thing, long time ago. Oh, yes, getting threatened with legal action. So, yes, an untitled document. It had stories like Drunk Blair announces tax on everything, and Tim Westwood presents Funked Up Shipping Forecast, and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that I did, because it's easy if you think of a section and then you just have to think of one quick joke for it every week. And so every week there was an apology to a celebrity saying that they did not, in fact, kind of like worship Satan or burn down their local garden centre or have incriminating photographs of Gordon Brown or whatever. And I did one week that was Jamie Oliver, because he was all over the place at the time. And it wasn't malicious at all. It wasn't kind of like, I don't like Jamie Oliver. It was just the humour was the suggestion that we would have written these ridiculous things about any celebrity. And yeah, nobody ever contacted me about anything except Penguin, who I assume had set up some kind of Google alert for Jamie Oliver, And so I showed up and they just automatically sent me a cease and desist letter. And it was take this down or we will sue you. And so I did. Yeah, Penguin, the jackboot of publishing fascism. So, any questions? I'm sure I've got other things I was thinking of talking about, but oh, yes. What was the content they targeted? It was just my apology to Jamie Oliver for saying that his seafood salad contained fatal levels of toxins in a restaurant review, which was obviously not a thing that had ever happened. Yes, I was playing with the pricing. Yes, no, that's a very good question. Christian asks the pricing for Automapper and Mediator has been released. Any opinion? So I actually don't know what the pricing is, but I do know that it essentially only applies to companies with a turnover more than $5 million, which is incredibly generous. Yes, you think Identity Server, and by the way, I am completely supportive of Identity Server and N-Service Bus. They are open source projects, which means you can access the source code and you can use it for free under certain conditions, and they've got a very clear license that tells you what those conditions are. And yeah, so like I think Identity Server Duende's limit is $1 million, and I've seen people go, well, that's like 5 programmers' salaries, and you're kind of like, yeah, and there are like 5 developers working at Duende just making this software. So um, for the value of your annual turnover, or for the value of those developers, you can get them solving your business problems instead of faffing around. And yeah, Jimmy's not going to get rich off this. Jimmy's got a consulting business, and that's how he makes his money. He is just, for it to be worth him carrying on, he will get some money that he can spend on beer, basically, because that's what Jimmy likes doing. And so, if Jimmy can justify time spent working on Automapper and Mediator by promising himself a lovely check-in on Untapped or something, then yeah, no, it's all good. If I had been maintaining simple data, if we were on simple data 7 or 8 now, and it was kind of like highly optimized, I actually I have this notion that you could, using source generators in C# now, if you kind of decorated a class with a connection string, you could source generate an absolutely shocking interface layer to the database, and it would just be like magic, and whenever you change the database, it would automatically change if everybody had it pointed to kind of like just a shared template database that existed. And then yeah, if the database changed, then your code would suddenly stop building, which is almost the exact opposite, now I come to think of it, of simple data, because simple data was, here is a dynamic object that you can think of as your database. And then you went, okay, database.customers.find by ID, and pass in an ID, and it would go, right, I'm going to interpret that as select everything from customer, where ID equals this, and it would parameterize it and everything. So, Rupert says all by myself reminds me of the pub singer skit by Vic Reeves. And yes, Rupert, the reason I put it there is that every now and then I will sing that as I'm wandering around the house. And if there's nobody else here, then I sing, "Don't wanna be all by myself." But if there are people here, then it's usually "I wanna be," because if there are people, then I am crowded, and if there are not people, then I am lonely. That's completely not true. So yes, my boss is a big fan of AI, and vibe coding and all that sort of thing. And he was very enthused about Google Gemini Pro 2.5. Certainly says alone does not equal lonely, and it absolutely doesn't. You're never alone with a MacBook. Or rather, you as long as you've got a charger, because nice as they are, they're not very cuddly. But yes, no. So Boss has been playing with Gemini, the new one, which people are saying is better at coding. And there's a Gemini CLI. And yes, he was very excited about it. He went, "I'll stick you on the workspace because we've got it on the workspace." And so I've got an API key that I can use and it's an absolutely insane amount of tokens that you get. You watch it kind of whirring away doing something. And it's sort of going, I've used 1% of my tokens. I think I'd been talking to it for 15, 20 minutes and it had used 85% of its tokens. And this was all context about what we were doing. And it got messed up towards the end, but that's because I needed to provide better information. Or I might try putting a prompt into, because you can like write a requirements document and then just enter that, and it reads it and then goes, "Oh, okay, and we can do this and this and this," and then sort of steps through it, and you give it permission to sort of do git submodule add, and then it goes, "Oh no, there isn't a git repository. Can I do a git in it?" And you go, "Yes, you can." And it banged through this thing, writing code that I understood but would not have been able to write. And that, I think, is a very interesting point about this, and this concern that we are going to end up where humans no longer know how to write code, and they just have to trust that the AI is getting it right. But I used to write C for a living. I spent two and a half years writing C for a living back in 1990, and 91 and 92. Although actually 1 year of writing C 8 hours a day feels like 2.5 years. So I don't want to do the maths on that. Apparently I do 6.25 years. But yes, I can write C++ very, very slowly if I need to. But I can edit C++ much better. It's like if you give me a C++ file and say, "Can you find the bug in that?" There's a reasonable chance, unless it's like a really obscure syntax bug or something. But if there's just kind of like a logic bug in there, I can find it. And yeah, whereas sort of opening an empty... Honestly, I'm not even sure these days what defines a C project. it's like a C# project has a CS_proj file, and a Zig project has a build.zig file, and a Rust project has a cargo file. And so, yeah, I just had no idea. And yeah, it went off and it cloned this other thing that I told it to kind of embed, which is a single sort of C file that you just include in your thing. There's not a lib for it particularly. And yeah, and it pulled that in, and it was kind of like finding devices and doing things with them and generating an absolute shed ton of code that I could not have written, but that I could follow. And I think I could probably maintain it. So, yeah, Marie says, I'm terrible at understanding code I didn't write, and I fully get that. And I think one of the things that helps, and one of the things that I like about this Gemini CLI, which is it's competing with Claude Code. They both do the same thing. You run them from shell, and they're just herring around doing things. But it explains what it's doing at every step, and it tries to do a build at every step as well. And it kind of generates all this code and then goes, I'll try and do a build, and there's an error. And you can like, oh, big surprise, there's an error, because AIs are crap at writing code. And then it goes, so what I need to do is this, this, and this. And it fixes it, and then it does a build, and it goes, yeah, no, that worked. And you're kind of like, hang on, so we've achieved step one. We've wrapped this other thing, and we've got access to it, and we can do stuff. And yeah, it got very, very, very confused at the next point. And I think that's possibly because I was telling it to do it in C, because I sort of understand C. And C++ is a little bit sort of more daunting in terms of weird syntaxes and stuff. But I think if I tell it it's allowed to use the C++ package for the other thing I'm telling it to use, then probably it might be able to figure it out better or something. I don't know. So yeah, we will see how we do with that. But then that was the other. So yes, but it built all of that from scratch, and I now know that the thing that makes a directory into a C or C++ project is a cmake_file.txt, which is where you put all your how to build this thing. So yes, and Marie says, yeah, we are getting Maxwell's coder. Yes, we are. But no, the thing about understanding code that I didn't write, it's explaining it as it goes along. It's I'm going to add this, and I need to reference that, and I'm going to create a pointer there, and oh no, I've initialized that to the wrong thing, so I'll fix that, and I'm importing from the wrong directory and stuff. And I was kind of like, well, that's good. And these coding assistants, these LLMs, they've been trained on code that's out there in the public, which means they are insanely good at JavaScript and TypeScript, and they're really good at like React programming and Tailwind CSS and HTML, because it's out there for them to find and look at, and they can read minified CSS. So they go, oh, I like the look of that site. You just go, can you absorb all the styling from that site and turn it into a readable CSS file? You could almost certainly do that, couldn't you? God damn it! I'm not gonna, because I don't know. But the other thing about understanding it is I specified it, and I was quite clear in the specification, and it was kind of like, I want you to build a native library that I can reference from a C# application, and I want to be able to pass in a callback and have it repeatedly call that thing. With information from devices. And yeah, I told it what methods I wanted or functions I wanted it to expose on the kind of public ABI so that they could be called from C Sharp. And I'd told it what libraries to use, and I kind of know how they work. So really, it was just doing the work of putting all that pesky kind of C syntax around things that I essentially understood. It's not the same as sort of somebody just handing you a code base, even of similar size, but that you don't know the spec for, you don't know why they wrote it, you don't know who wrote it, you don't know any of the decisions that went into it. This is why ADRs, architecture decision records, um, or architecture decision reviews, are such a good idea. So, yes, so Marie says, worst case, you verify that the requested module works, label it and use it as a library. Yes, exactly that. And I'm feeling pretty confident about getting there, and I'm feeling pretty good about what it's going to mean if I do. But the thing that's mostly sort of bothering me with that is once it's generated, you can continue to edit it with the LLM. You can just go, hey, read this code that you wrote, and it'll go, did I? Because it's a completely different instance with a new context window. But anyway, but yes, it's kind of what language do I want to have that is in our Git repo because I put it there, and therefore when people do the Git blame, they're going to go Rendle and come and find me. And it's kind of like, I think it probably actually is C++. I think that's the one where the fewest people, because Rust is amazing. It's absolutely brilliant, but it is a bugger to work with. And yeah, if someone just goes, without any input from you, here is a crap load of Rust, and you're going, what are all these apostrophes doing all over the place? So yes, and C, nobody's going to thank me for just raw C at this point. What I'd really like is to do it in Zig. And so I had a quick go at getting it to generate a Zig library that included, because Zig can compile C into binary, which is a really clever thing. Zig's build system is absolutely astonishing. You write your build spec in Zig and then run. The problem is that if you look at GitHub and all the code that's out there and all the tutorials that's out there and all the documentation that's out there on the internet, which these things have ingested and had it kind of like pushed on them, then the more of that code there is out there, the better they're going to be at that language. And there's a crap ton of C and C++ out there on SourceForge and GitHub and, all over the place. And, tons of C# and Java and Python. These things could write Python until, I don't know. They do. I mean, that's how they do things a lot of the time. But Zig is still really new, and there's not a lot of stuff out there. There's a couple of things. Bun, the JavaScript runtime, is written in Zig. That's a thing. But I don't know how much of that is actually written in Zig and how much of it is kind of C code that they've pulled from somewhere. Because writing a JavaScript runtime is an impressive feat. And if that's what they have done, they've written it in pure Zig, then I am super impressed. But there's that, and then there's Ghosty, which is Mitchell Hashimoto resigned retired from HashiCorp, and I'm assuming he doesn't have to work. He doesn't, it's. I don't think it's quite a notch situation, but yeah, he doesn't need to work to live, which is very, very nice. And what's even nicer is that he decided to make a terminal program, which is the one I am now using on Mac to run Gemini CLI, funnily enough. And yeah, he wrote it in Zig. Like 97% of it is written in Zig, and then there's just the sort of Mac Catalyst or whatever he uses wrappers to package it as a Mac application and a Linux GTK application or something. And I don't know if you can use it on Windows yet or not, but yeah, it's so there's that. So there's like two big projects that I know of. Oh, and there's a database that I can't remember the name of. But no, I really like Zig. It's a very well thought out language, and it does the thing that Go has as a design principle. Excuse me. Which is simplicity. There should be one way to do things, and it should be simple. And Zig is very into that. And also explicit about memory allocation. So there is, unlike C, where you have malloc, and it just goes, here's some system memory, please don't go past the end of it, or I will segfault on you. Zig has multiple allocators, and if you want to do something that requires a heap of allocated memory, then you have to create an allocator. And when you create the allocator, immediately after that, you can say defer allocator.dinit, and then once that allocator semantically goes out of scope in your program, then dinit will be called, and that memory will be released back to wherever it came from. But yes, so yeah, I really like Zig. The problem with Zig is that it is on version 0.14.1, I think. And yeah, even if I do get Gemini to generate this library in Zig, and I think I might give it a good go and see if I can help it. But yes, even if I can do that, then I have to turn up to the other people in my company who are responsible for code and go, have you heard of Zig? Because it's not for sure that they have. Surly's asking, has anyone used Node 2.0 or Dino or whatever it is called? It's Dino is it's Ryan Dahl doing the thing that I wish every software project were allowed to do, because when I start a new project and I'm building something, and I do, like, if I don't know what I'm doing, I'll do test-driven development or behavior-driven development, and I'll be kind of hacking away at it, and you end up with a fairly chaotic code base when you do that, and maybe along the way you made a decision you regretted, but because this is your sandbox version, you just kind of go, all right, well, we'll rewind, we'll take that decision out, and we'll go the other way and see if that works. Like, trace your way back along the thread. And yes, and you build it and you get it working. Gone now, haven't I? I just disappeared there. So yeah, you get it working with this filthy, dirty code base with commented out chunks all over the place and files that aren't the same name as the class that's in them because you changed manager to supervisor at some point in your terminology but didn't tell anybody else. And then you go, right, now we know how to build it, let's build it. And I'm pretty sure that's the itch that Ryan Dahl is scratching with Dino. But just on general principle, it's better because it uses TypeScript. It runs TypeScript natively. And hold on. Yeah, it runs JavaScript as well, but you don't have to compile your TypeScript to JavaScript to get it to run on Dino. And I don't know if that's because they're just whacking it through a very, very quick TypeScript compiler on the inside, or what's going on there. But so yes, there's that. I have not used it personally. I reluctantly have Node and npm installed because there are so many command line utilities that are only available as npm packages, because that makes them available to the widest number of people, because for every back-end developer toiling away writing raw SQL statements, which I was doing earlier today and enjoying it, and I do it again, damn you. Yes, what was I talking about? I just went right off there. Yes, something about JavaScript. Anyway, Stephen says Python also has an explicit principle that there should be one way to do it. Yeah, I'm always surprised. I don't use Python often enough. I have been for the last few weeks using it a lot more, but I've never used Python regularly enough for it to really kind of embed in my brain. But it's the way you do things is just like incredibly simple. It's kind of like, you want to open a file? Well, there's a function open that you pass a file name and it returns you the file back, and then you can do things with that file and you can read it all into a string or whatever. Yeah, and or just line by line you can iterate over it and stuff. And it's the sort of thing, in C# you have to kind of it's basically the same thing, but it's just like it's system.io.file.open read, or open text, and it returns you a stream reader, and then you can say while stream reader.readLine is length greater than 0 line, which is a brilliant thing, by the way. I don't know, I'm going to go a bit sort of C-sharpy here, because it occurred to me that this is a pattern that I've been using. In some languages, you can, so like in C, you could just say while C equals getchar, and until somebody pressed Control D, I think, which would send the null character, it would just keep going through that loop. And yeah, you couldn't. There's a kind of tortured way of doing that in C#, but you can't say if open brackets var variable equals thing is not null or something. You can't declare the variable in the while statement or whatever. But what you can do which works very nicely, is you can say, while whatever it is, or while await whatever it is, like read line async from a stream reader. And then at the end, you can put is, and then like not null, or is just kind of like curly braces, and then you can give it a name. You can sort of say, if this is, I'll then put it into this variable, otherwise the while will exit. And it's just a really nice and succinct syntax. God, that was nerdy. That was like, I was up when I was visiting Eli this week, and yes, their partner, I don't think they will mind me mentioning, is a massive linguistics nerd, and my elder spawn is also a massive linguistics nerd, and so I mentioned to my elder spawn that Eli's spouse had elements of Hittite grammar, or grammar of ancient Hittite or something. It was a textbook about Hittite, like, which is a very old language. And yeah, and he's they are not like a, yeah, no, they're not a linguistics professor or anything like that. This is just their hobby. And yeah, my elder spawn is off doing linguistics at university, and was like, "Oh no, I've got elements of Hittite out from the library at university." And I'm like, "Of course you have, of course you have." And there's something in me that connects with the nerdiness in other people, and it doesn't have to be the same nerdiness as mine. It's like, we don't have to nerd out about computers or bass, or any of the things that I'm into. That was probably both of them. Formula One. I have. I contain multitudes. Um, but yeah, you can see somebody just being super nerdy about whatever it is they're super nerdy about, and I just feel joy for them, that there's something, because I know how happy the things that I nerd out about make me, and so seeing somebody else being that happy is just really, yeah, it's nice. Wow, this has gone to a weird place. I'm here. I'm going to be. So, who wants to join my cult? Kieran says, I did Advent of Code last year in Python and it was lovely. Yes. No, Python is a fun language. It is the de facto language of machine learning and AI. And if you want to do anything beyond, going to a web page and doing ChatGPT and stuff, or downloading models, if you want to do fine tuning or convert a model from PyTorch format to the Onyx format so you can run it on the Onyx runtime, and use QNN acceleration for Qualcomm Hexagon GPUs, if you want to do that, then you basically have to get Python, or get UV, which is apparently all the cool kids these days use UV to manage their Pythons. And so, yes, you'd kind of open a terminal and you create a directory and you go UV venv. And if you like, you can tell it which version of Python to use, because sometimes there are things that don't work with the absolute very latest thing. And so, I think I've got half a dozen versions of Python cached somewhere on my system. I'm really glad this MacBook has a terabyte of disk, because it's more than half full already, and I've only had it 6 weeks, I think. No, 8 weeks. But still. Rupert Reynolds is still nerdy about his first grown-up OS, which was mainframe MVS. Whoa. I'm not even sure what that stands for. I've not heard of MVS. He runs his accounts on it in a Hercules window. Good Lord. The Velvet Underground. It wasn't the Velvet Underground. The Velvet Underground was Lou Reed and that lot, wasn't it? I heard about the band that admitted that it was AI. Oh, right, IBM ZOS. Yes. So the Z series operating system, which is vaguely Unix-like, I think. God, I remember I had a fun 18-month contract once, writing Infomix 4GL on IBM AIX. But apparently it dates back to the 1960s and 70s, and MVS stands for Multiple Virtual Storage. Yeah. Wow, that is possibly on. Volkmar Rigo says, "Hi from the Alps. A question about Spotify. Is there a reason why your channel there is not updated anymore? It was nice to listen to your show while driving." Yes, Volkmar, there is a thing. Right, so I have ADHD. I have a proper diagnosis, and I'm waiting for somebody to go, "Here, have some meds for that." But my brain works in interesting ways. And so I got a little bit behind on updating because there was NDC Oslo and there was like another conference, and I had a mad sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and so they backed up. And it gets to this point where when they're backed up, that there's too many, and I have to have a day when I've woken up and like had a cup of coffee and just the executive function angels have showered their blessings upon me for some reason that day. And I go, if I just make a start, and that day will come, and hopefully soon. And what I will do is put a note. I've got this thing that just repeatedly reminds you to do something until you tell it you've done it, and so you have there's no other way of deleting it. And you don't want to lie to the thing. So yes, but that is the only. I have RX Elements 10, which is the thing I use to clean up the audio and chop the beginning bit off because there's like 2 minutes. And yes, Stephen says, "You know what I miss that I wish could come back and would solve this kind of problem? Trillion." Anyone remember Trillion? Was Trillion the like ICQ client? I mean, she was also the only person who could actually drive the starship Heart of Gold, because she had a degree in astrophysics from Cambridge University, and Zaphod Beeblebrox was a 2-headed bum. Yes. Okay. No. Trillium. Yeah. It did ICQ, but it also did like MSN Messenger and all that sort of thing. But yes, there should. If there was just a thing, like if I could stream this straight to Spotify, why can't I stream this straight to Spotify? Spotify go, oh, there you go. Somebody send this to someone you know who works at Spotify, or in failing that, if you don't know anyone who works at Spotify, send it to everybody you know. Just one of those big long BCC things. Send it to everybody you know. Just not the show particularly. Just mention that yeah, Spotify should absolutely be a streaming destination, because then all I would have to do is like very quickly, once we'd finished, go, all right, cut the first 2 minutes of that off, because we have 2 minutes of playing. Yes, yes, Spotify. There you go. That's a thing that you could do that Apple can't do with Apple Music, and Audible would probably be loath to do. And by Audible, obviously, I mean Amazon, but they would probably be loath to do that with their platform. Whereas Spotify, you're funky and hip, and everybody uses you despite there being like built-in things. So yes, I want to be able to stream straight to Spotify. The other thing I want to be able to do on Spotify, actually, I would really like it if they had a thing where you could upload your podcast in kind of chunks and intersperse them with tracks from Spotify, because then I could do Desert Planet downloads where I would actually do kind of like one of those podcasts. But yes, there's a show on Radio 4 here in the UK, and available all over the world through bbc.com, probably. But yes, Radio 4, called Desert Island Discs. And yes, the guest each week, you get to choose, I think it's 5 albums that you would take with you, and 2 books. I think it's 2 books, because somebody had a joke about you're allowed 2 books, and so I would take a big inflatable book and a book called How to Make Oars Out of Sand. And yeah, if I could kind of chop up and intersperse chatty segments with the actual songs, then I could totally do Desert Planet downloads, and it would be, you're on Mars, and you're about to go out of, like, on the other side of the sun or something, I don't know. And so for 6 months, you're not going to have anybody to talk to at all, because you're like Mark Thingy in The Martian. I can't remember his surname. That's annoying. But yes, which is Dylan's favourite film. Yes. Mark Watney. That was it. Thank you very much, Marie. Appreciate you. And yeah, that's a thing that I would do if Spotify had that feature. Speaking of Mark Watney, if you haven't seen the trailer for Project Hail Mary, go and watch after this finishes, like, but before you leave YouTube, just go and watch the trailer for Project Hail Mary, which is the new movie based on the book by Andy Weir, because it looks amazing. And I have not actually got round to reading Project Hail Mary yet, so I've got a vague notion of what it's about. Once I know there is a film, I prefer to watch the film first and then read the book afterwards, because if you read the book first, then the film's slightly disappointing, whereas if you watch the film first, then you go, that was good, I enjoyed that, and then you kind of like read the book that it was based on, and you go, oh wow, that was different in surprising ways, and there was no love interest at all in the book, so why was Jennifer Love Hewitt in the movie? I don't know why Jennifer Love Hewitt. I think it was I got Jennifer and then I needed a surname. Sorry, Jennifers everywhere. Sorry, Jennifer Love Hewitt, for picking you in particular. Sorry to all the Jennifers who missed out on this opportunity, but we will keep you informed of any future castings. I've been talking for 55 minutes straight, and I think it's actually starting to get to me. So, yeah, I think we'll all be back to normal. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm not the social secretary. Um, but yes, I don't think I have anything coming up particularly. I have not watched the F1 movie yet, Volkmar. I am going to see Megan 2.0 this evening, because I haven't made the time to go and see it, and I don't think it's going to be around much longer. It's kind of got down to one showing a day, and it's got subtitles. So, yes. But yeah, going to go and watch that. Um, I Is the F1 movie already streamable on Apple TV? Because if it is, then I would take over the lounge. But although I can't, oh, my uh, younger spawn, who is mid-teens, has got 4 or 5 of his friends. Teenage boys kind of blur when there's too many of them, and you can't keep track. But yes, and so they have laid claim to the nice front room with the nice telly, which is why I'm up here, because it's very, very noisy down there. So yes, uh, Stephen, Megan 2 does look phenomenally ridiculous, uh, and I mean phenomenally, and I am well aware that it is, because the first Megan was genuinely creepy. The the doll slash robot was really quite scary, and also was designed to be an age where, when a thing that looks like a 11, 12-year-old child is pure evil and bent on your destruction, um, then yes, they got it out of the way in the trailer. To be fair to them, to be fair to the producers of Megan 2.0, and you know there's going to be a third one, by the way, because the 3 is right there in her name. So anyway, but yes, right up front in the trailer for it, the first trailer I saw, the first thing they did was have one of the characters just do some terrible exposition explaining away the fact that the doll appeared to have aged 3 years, which obviously the doll had to, because the actress who plays the doll, do we still say actress? I don't know. So yes, I am not expecting great things from Megan 2.0, but I am willing to turn my brain off and just go on then, entertain me. But yes, Gremlins and Gremlins 2. Gremlins 2 was the best thing you can say about Gremlins 2 is it gives you a really good appreciation of just how good the first Gremlins movie was. And still is, actually. It holds up today. Yeah, it's kind of, because I think they went with a lot of hand animated puppets and stuff. They were all like Muppets. It wasn't stop motion, um, for a lot of it. So yeah, right, we made it. Thank you, chat, for sticking with me through this hour of me just rambling all by myself. I am now going to open RX Elements, and I'm going to figure out where we've got to with Spotify, and I am going to start catching up with the back catalogue. There we go. How's that? I've got some creatine gummies over there, and apparently they help your brain. All I know is they taste of blue raspberry, and it's yum. So, hopefully, back to some semblance of normality with Dylan and or Eli next week. I will check out the Key and Peele sketch about Gremlins 2. Thank you for that recommendation, Stephen. And yeah, I will pretty sure be here next week. So I will see you all then. Take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye.